Question 1. The review process indicates that an applicant for the Fine Arts Department has submitted a portfolio that demonstrates significant technical skill and conceptual originality, but their personal statement details a challenging background that has limited their formal artistic training opportunities. The admissions committee is considering how to best evaluate this applicant within the framework of the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the principles and regulations governing university entrance examinations in this context? Option A. Grants significant weight to the applicant's personal statement and background story, recognizing the resilience and determination demonstrated, even if it means downplaying some of the objective artistic criteria in the portfolio. Option B. Seek informal recommendations from external art educators who have previously encountered the applicant to gauge their potential, independent of the formal portfolio review process. Option C. Focus on the applicant's perceived potential for future growth and improvement, rather than strictly adhering to the current demonstrated level of artistic skill in the portfolio. Option D. Prioritize a comprehensive evaluation of the applicant's submitted portfolio and supporting artistic work against the established departmental criteria for technical proficiency, creativity, and artistic potential, as outlined in the entrance examination guidelines. The correct answer is D. Prioritize a comprehensive evaluation of the applicant's submitted portfolio and supporting artistic work against the established departmental criteria for technical proficiency, creativity, and artistic potential, as outlined in the entrance examination guidelines. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's commitment to fostering artistic talent with the need to ensure a fair and transparent admissions process, while also adhering to specific entrance examination regulations. The applicant's unique circumstances, while potentially compelling, must be evaluated strictly within the established framework of the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam guidelines. Misinterpreting or deviating from these regulations could lead to accusations of bias, unfairness, or procedural impropriety, undermining the integrity of the admissions process. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the applicant's portfolio and supporting documents against the established criteria for the Fine Arts and Music departments, as outlined in the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam regulations. This approach prioritizes objective assessment based on the defined standards of artistic merit and technical proficiency expected for admission. It ensures that all applicants are evaluated on the same basis, upholding the principle of equal opportunity and the academic standards of the university. This aligns with the implicit regulatory requirement for a merit-based selection process, ensuring that admitted students possess the foundational skills and potential to succeed in the rigorous academic environment. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the applicant's personal narrative or emotional appeal, without a rigorous assessment of their artistic qualifications, would be professionally unacceptable. This fails to adhere to the core purpose of an entrance examination, which is to identify candidates with the requisite artistic and musical abilities. Such an approach risks admitting students who may not be adequately prepared for the program, potentially leading to academic difficulties and a dilution of the university's standards. It also introduces subjectivity and potential bias, violating the principle of fair evaluation. Another incorrect approach that involves seeking external opinions or endorsements to influence the admissions decision, without these being part of the officially prescribed evaluation criteria, is also professionally unsound. This circumvents the established assessment procedures and introduces external pressures that are not sanctioned by the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam regulations. It undermines the autonomy of the admissions committee and can lead to perceptions of favoritism or undue influence, compromising the integrity and fairness of the selection process. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the governing regulations and guidelines for the specific entrance examination. This includes identifying the objective criteria for assessment, the established procedures for evaluation, and the roles and responsibilities of the admissions committee. When faced with unique applicant circumstances, the professional must first determine if these circumstances are relevant within the defined regulatory framework. If they are, they should be assessed objectively against the established criteria. If not, the focus must remain on the prescribed evaluation metrics. Transparency, fairness, and adherence to established procedures are paramount to maintaining the credibility and legitimacy of the admissions process. Question 2. What factors determine an applicant's readiness for advanced study in fine arts and music at the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music, beyond mere technical skill? Option A. The applicant's ability to articulate the historical and theoretical contexts that inform artistic creation and appreciation. Option B. The applicant's skill in replicating the most popular contemporary artistic styles and trends. Option C. The applicant's capacity for uninhibited personal emotional expression in their artwork. Option D. The applicant's mastery of specific artistic techniques and tools, irrespective of conceptual understanding. The correct answer is A. The applicant's ability to articulate the historical and theoretical contexts that inform artistic creation and appreciation. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires an applicant to demonstrate not only artistic talent, but also an understanding of the foundational principles that underpin artistic creation and appreciation, as assessed by the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam. The university's entrance examination framework, as per its established guidelines, aims to evaluate a holistic understanding of artistic disciplines, not just technical execution. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between superficial engagement with artistic concepts and a genuine, informed perspective that aligns with the university's educational objectives. The correct approach involves articulating a nuanced understanding of how historical context and theoretical frameworks inform artistic practice. This demonstrates an awareness that art is not created in a vacuum, but is deeply intertwined with its cultural, social, and intellectual environment. This approach is correct because it directly addresses the university's likely objective of admitting students who can engage critically and thoughtfully with their chosen field, contributing to a rich academic community. It reflects an understanding of the academic rigor expected at a prefectural university, where theoretical grounding is as important as practical skill. An approach that focuses solely on personal emotional expression without acknowledging broader artistic influences or theoretical underpinnings is incorrect. This fails to meet the academic standards of a university entrance exam, which seeks evidence of intellectual engagement beyond subjective feelings. It neglects the university's implicit requirement to understand art as a discipline with a history and a body of knowledge. Another incorrect approach is to prioritize the imitation of popular contemporary trends without critical analysis or historical perspective. While awareness of current art is valuable, an entrance exam seeks to assess a candidate's ability to form independent judgments and understand the evolution of art, not merely to replicate what is currently fashionable. This approach suggests a lack of depth and critical thinking, which are essential for advanced study in fine arts and music. Finally, an approach that emphasizes technical proficiency above all else, while important, is insufficient on its own. The Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam, like many higher education institutions, seeks candidates who can contextualize their technical skills within a broader artistic and intellectual framework. Overemphasis on technique alone can indicate a limited understanding of art's purpose and impact. The professional decision-making process for applicants facing such an exam involves understanding the institution's mission and the specific evaluation criteria. This requires researching the university's curriculum, faculty interests, and any published statements about their educational philosophy. Applicants should then reflect on their own artistic journey and articulate how their experiences and understanding align with these institutional expectations, demonstrating both passion and intellectual preparedness. Question 3. Risk assessment procedures indicate that prospective applicants to the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam may encounter challenges in understanding the precise requirements for portfolio submission and application documentation. Which of the following actions best ensures compliance with the university's specific entrance examination framework? Option A. Prioritizing the artistic quality of the portfolio above all other stated requirements in the application materials. Option B. Relying on advice and shared experiences from current students or recent alumni of the university. Option C. Inferring requirements based on general admission practices for art universities across Japan. Option D. Consulting the official Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam regulations and guidelines published by the university. The correct answer is D. Consulting the official Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam regulations and guidelines published by the university. Explanation. The scenario presents a challenge for prospective students applying to the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music. The core difficulty lies in accurately interpreting and adhering to the specific admission, guidelines, and regulations set forth by the university for its entrance examinations. Misunderstanding or misapplying these rules can lead to disqualification, regardless of artistic merit. Therefore, careful judgment is required to ensure all procedural requirements are met. The correct approach involves a thorough and direct consultation of the official Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam regulations. This ensures that all information and requirements are understood directly from the source, minimizing the risk of misinterpretation or reliance on outdated or inaccurate secondary information. This approach aligns with the principle of regulatory compliance, which mandates adherence to the specific rules and guidelines established by the governing body. In this context, the university's published regulations are the definitive legal and procedural framework for the entrance examination. An incorrect approach would be to rely solely on anecdotal advice from current students or alumni. While their experiences can offer insights, they are not official pronouncements and may be subject to personal interpretation, outdated information, or specific circumstances that no longer apply. This approach fails to meet the regulatory requirement of adhering to the official examination framework. Another incorrect approach is to infer requirements based on general university admission practices in Japan. While there might be commonalities, each university, including the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music, has its own unique set of regulations. Assuming general practices apply without verifying the specific rules for this particular institution is a direct violation of the principle of specific regulatory compliance. A further incorrect approach would be to focus exclusively on artistic portfolio development without adequately addressing the procedural and documentation requirements outlined in the exam guidelines. While a strong portfolio is crucial for artistic evaluation, failure to meet non-artistic requirements, such as application deadlines, required documentation, or specific submission formats, can lead to disqualification before the portfolio is even assessed. This demonstrates a failure to understand the holistic nature of the entrance examination process as defined by the university's regulations. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves a systematic approach. First, identify the governing regulatory body and its specific rules. Second, access the most current and official version of these regulations. Third, meticulously review all requirements, paying close attention to procedural, documentation, and eligibility criteria. Finally, seek clarification from the official administrative channels of the institution if any aspect of the regulations remains unclear. Question 4. Market research demonstrates that prospective students often seek informal advice from current faculty members regarding their application portfolios for the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam. A respected professor, known for their integrity, is approached by a close family friend whose child is applying. The child's portfolio is of average quality, but the friend expresses significant personal hardship and pleads for the professor to put in a good word or offer specific advice on how to improve the portfolio's chances, implying a desire for preferential consideration. The professor is aware of the university's strict adherence to merit-based admissions and the importance of maintaining an impartial evaluation process. What is the most ethically appropriate course of action for the professor? Option A. Inform the friend that while direct intervention is not possible, they can anonymously submit a supplementary statement to the admissions committee highlighting the child's personal circumstances and potential. Option B. Politely decline to offer any specific advice or commentary on the portfolio, stating that all applications are evaluated strictly on their artistic merit, according to established criteria, and that any personal input could compromise the fairness of the process. Option C. Provide specific feedback on how to improve the portfolio, focusing on elements that are likely to impress the admissions committee, and assure the friend that they will advocate for the child during the review. Option D. offer general advice on portfolio presentation that could be applied to any applicant, while subtly highlighting the child's potential based on their family connection. The correct answer is B. Politely decline to offer any specific advice or commentary on the portfolio, stating that all applications are evaluated strictly on their artistic merit according to established criteria, and that any personal input could compromise the fairness of the process. Explanation. This scenario presents an ethical dilemma common in academic and artistic institutions, particularly concerning the integrity of admissions processes and the potential for undue influence. The challenge lies in balancing the university's commitment to merit-based admissions with the personal relationships and potential pressures that can arise within a close-knit community. The Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam regulations, while not explicitly detailed here, are understood to uphold principles of fairness, impartiality, and the selection of candidates based on their artistic talent and potential, as assessed through standardized evaluation criteria. The correct approach involves maintaining strict professional boundaries and adhering to the established admission procedures without deviation. This ensures that all applicants are evaluated on an equal footing, preventing any perception of favoritism or bias. The university's commitment to academic and artistic excellence is paramount, and any action that compromises this principle is ethically unsound and potentially violates the spirit, if not the letter, of admission guidelines that prioritize merit. An incorrect approach would be to allow personal connections to influence the evaluation process. This could manifest as providing preferential treatment, sharing confidential information about the examination, or subtly advocating for a particular candidate. Such actions would undermine the fairness of the admissions process, erode trust in the institution, and could lead to the selection of less qualified candidates, thereby diminishing the overall quality of the student body. Furthermore, it could create a precedent for future impropriety and damage the university's reputation. The professional decision-making process in such situations requires a clear understanding of ethical obligations, a commitment to institutional policies, and the courage to act impartially. Professionals must prioritize the integrity of the process over personal relationships or perceived obligations. This involves recognizing potential conflicts of interest, seeking guidance from supervisors or ethics committees when necessary, and consistently applying established procedures to all cases. The ultimate goal is to uphold the values of fairness, meritocracy, and academic integrity that are fundamental to any reputable educational institution. Question 5. Operational review demonstrates that a faculty member in the Department of Western Painting at Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music has a close personal relationship with an applicant to the university's entrance examination. The faculty member is aware that their expertise would be valuable in assessing the applicant's portfolio and technical skills. What is the most ethically sound and procedurally correct course of action for this faculty member? Option A. The faculty member should discreetly discuss the applicant's strengths and weaknesses with other evaluators, without explicitly mentioning the personal relationship, to ensure a fair assessment. Option B. The faculty member should proceed with evaluating the applicant's portfolio, believing their professional judgment can remain objective despite the personal relationship. Option C. The faculty member should recuse themselves entirely from any involvement in the evaluation of the applicant's portfolio and admission decision, and report the personal relationship to the admissions committee. Option D. The faculty member should advocate for the applicant to the admissions committee, highlighting their potential based on their personal knowledge of the applicant's dedication. The correct answer is C. The faculty member should recuse themselves entirely from any involvement in the evaluation of the applicant's portfolio and admission decision, and report the personal relationship to the admissions committee. Explanation. This scenario presents an ethical dilemma common in academic institutions, particularly those focused on artistic and musical disciplines where subjective evaluation and personal relationships can intersect. The challenge lies in balancing the university's commitment to fair and objective assessment with the personal connection an instructor might have with a student. The Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam, like any academic institution, operates under principles of academic integrity and fairness. The specific regulatory framework and guidelines for this exam would emphasize impartiality, transparency, and the avoidance of conflicts of interest in the admissions process. The correct approach involves recognizing the potential for bias and proactively mitigating it to uphold the integrity of the entrance examination. This means recusing oneself from any part of the evaluation process where a personal relationship could influence judgment. This aligns with the ethical imperative to ensure a level playing field for all applicants and to maintain public trust in the university's admission standards. The university's internal regulations and the broader ethical codes governing academic professionals would mandate such a course of action to prevent even the appearance of impropriety. An incorrect approach would be to proceed with evaluating the student despite the personal connection, believing one can remain objective. This fails to acknowledge the inherent psychological influence of personal relationships on judgment, however unintentional. It violates the principle of impartiality and could lead to a perception of favoritism, undermining the fairness of the entire admissions process. Such an action would contravene the university's commitment to objective assessment and could lead to challenges regarding the validity of the examination results. Another incorrect approach would be to discuss the student's application with colleagues without disclosing the personal relationship, as this still involves the instructor in a process where their judgment is compromised, even if they are not the sole evaluator. This can lead to subtle, unconscious biases being introduced into discussions and decisions. The professional decision-making process in such situations requires a proactive identification of potential conflicts of interest. When a conflict is identified, the professional must prioritize the integrity of the process over personal involvement. This involves transparently disclosing the relationship to the relevant authorities and recusing oneself from any decision-making capacity. The guiding principle is to act in a manner that upholds the highest ethical standards and ensures fairness for all stakeholders. Question 6. Process analysis reveals that applicants to the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam are required to submit a portfolio showcasing their artistic achievements. One applicant has a significant piece in their portfolio that was developed through a collaborative project with several other students. The university's guidelines emphasize the importance of originality and individual artistic expression. Which of the following approaches best adheres to the spirit and letter of these entrance examination requirements? Option A. Clearly detailing the applicant's specific role and contributions within the collaborative project, while also acknowledging the involvement of other collaborators. Option B. Adding a general disclaimer stating the work was inspired by a collaborative effort without specifying the applicant's individual input. Option C. Including the collaborative project without any mention of co-creators or the applicant's specific role, assuming the admissions committee will understand it represents their best effort. Option D. Presenting the collaborative project as solely their own work to highlight its impact and their perceived leadership in its creation. The correct answer is A. Clearly detailing the applicant's specific role and contributions within the collaborative project, while also acknowledging the involvement of other collaborators. Explanation. Scenario analysis. The scenario presents a challenge for an applicant to the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam regarding the ethical presentation of their portfolio. The core difficulty lies in balancing the desire to showcase their best work with the university's explicit guidelines on originality and attribution. Misrepresenting the extent of their personal contribution to a collaborative project could lead to a false impression of their skills and potentially violate academic integrity principles. This requires careful judgment to ensure honesty and adherence to the exam's specific rules. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves clearly and accurately disclosing the applicant's specific role and contributions within any collaborative projects included in the portfolio. This aligns with the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exams' implied expectation of originality and honest self-representation. By detailing their individual input, the applicant demonstrates integrity and allows the admissions committee to assess their personal artistic development and capabilities accurately, as per the spirit of an entrance examination designed to evaluate individual talent and potential. Incorrect approaches analysis. Presenting a collaborative project without any mention of co-creators or the applicant's specific role is ethically problematic. It misleads the admissions committee into believing the applicant solely created the work, which is a form of misrepresentation and a failure to adhere to the principle of honest attribution expected in academic and artistic contexts. This approach undermines the purpose of the portfolio as a measure of individual skill. Attributing the entire collaborative project to oneself, even if the applicant played a significant role, is also a misrepresentation. It fails to acknowledge the contributions of others and violates the ethical obligation to give credit where it is due. This can be seen as an attempt to inflate one's perceived abilities through dishonest means, directly contravening the integrity expected in an entrance exam. Including a disclaimer that the work is inspired by a collaborative effort without detailing the applicant's actual involvement is insufficient. While it hints at collaboration, it still avoids the crucial step of clearly defining the applicant's personal contribution. This approach is evasive and does not provide the admissions committee with the necessary clarity to evaluate the applicant's individual merit, thus failing to meet the requirement for transparent self-presentation. Professional reasoning. When faced with portfolio submission requirements, especially in competitive entrance exams, professionals should adopt a principle of radical transparency regarding their work. This involves meticulously reviewing the specific guidelines provided by the institution. If collaboration is involved, the professional decision-making process should prioritize clearly delineating their individual contributions, acknowledging co-creators, and ensuring that the presented work accurately reflects their personal skill set and effort. This approach builds trust and ensures a fair evaluation based on genuine merit. Question 7. The performance metrics show that your submitted portfolio for the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam received significant positive feedback from a renowned professional artist during a pre-application critique. However, their suggestions for improvement were quite substantial, leading to a revised body of work that feels significantly different from your original pieces. You are now faced with the decision of how to present this revised work in your official application. Option A. Submit the original portfolio without any revisions, as it represents your independent artistic output before external influence. Option B. Submit the revised portfolio, acknowledging that you incorporated feedback from a professional artist to strengthen your work, but emphasizing that the final creative decisions and execution remain your own. Option C. Submit the revised portfolio, but state that the significant revisions were made based on advice from a fellow student. Option D. Submit the revised portfolio, presenting it as entirely your own original work without mentioning any external feedback received. Correct answer is B. Submit the revised portfolio, acknowledging that you incorporated feedback from a professional artist to strengthen your work, but emphasizing that the final creative decisions and execution remain your own. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge for an aspiring artist applying to the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam. The core dilemma lies in balancing the desire to present one's best work with the ethical obligation of academic integrity and honesty in the application process. The university's entrance exam regulations, while not explicitly detailed here, are understood to uphold principles of fair assessment and originality. The challenge is amplified by the subjective nature of artistic evaluation, where external influences could be perceived as compromising the authenticity of the applicant's creative output. The correct approach involves acknowledging the external feedback received and integrating it thoughtfully into the artistic process without directly replicating or submitting work that is no longer solely the applicant's original creation. This aligns with the ethical imperative of presenting one's own abilities and artistic vision during an entrance examination. The university expects to assess the applicant's inherent talent, skill development, and unique perspective. Submitting work heavily influenced or directly guided by a professional artist, to the point where it no longer reflects the applicant's independent development, would misrepresent their capabilities and undermine the fairness of the selection process. This approach prioritizes transparency and genuine self-representation, which are foundational to academic and artistic integrity. An incorrect approach would be to directly incorporate the professional artist's suggestions verbatim into the submitted portfolio. This fails to uphold the principle of originality, a cornerstone of artistic and academic evaluation. The university would be assessing the work of the professional artist, not the applicant's independent artistic merit. This constitutes a form of misrepresentation, potentially violating the spirit, if not the letter, of the entrance exam's integrity guidelines. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the feedback entirely and submit the original work without any consideration for the insights gained. While this maintains originality, it fails to demonstrate a willingness to learn, adapt, and grow from constructive criticism, which are valuable traits for a student at a fine arts university. The university seeks not only raw talent, but also the potential for development and receptiveness to artistic dialogue. A third incorrect approach would be to attribute the feedback to a peer or mentor without disclosing the professional artist's involvement. This is a form of deception, as it misleads the admissions committee about the true source of influence and the applicant's independent creative process. It erodes trust and demonstrates a lack of ethical judgment. The professional decision-making process in such a situation requires a careful assessment of the university's stated or implied values regarding originality and integrity. It involves self-reflection on what aspects of the feedback can be genuinely integrated into one's own evolving style, and what constitutes an over-reliance on external direction. The applicant should aim to demonstrate their ability to process and learn from feedback in a way that enhances their own artistic voice, rather than adopting another's. Question 8. Quality control measures reveal that an applicant's portfolio submission for the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance examination contains a piece of work that appears to be a direct reproduction of a well-known historical artwork, with only minor stylistic alterations. The applicant has not indicated any source material or acknowledged inspiration. What is the most appropriate course of action for the admissions committee? Option A. Forward the portfolio to the university's legal department for an immediate assessment of copyright infringement. Option B. Immediately disqualify the applicant for plagiarism and breach of academic integrity. Option C. Proceed with the evaluation of the portfolio as submitted, assuming the applicant's intent was to demonstrate technical skill in replicating a style. Option D. Contact the applicant to request clarification regarding the artwork's originality and inspiration before making any decision. The correct answer is B. Immediately disqualify the applicant for plagiarism and breach of academic integrity. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate not only artistic talent, but also an understanding of the ethical considerations and regulatory compliance expected within the academic and artistic community of Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music. The university's entrance examination process, like any educational institution, is governed by principles of fairness, integrity, and adherence to its own established guidelines. The challenge lies in identifying the most appropriate and ethically sound response when a potential issue arises during the application review, ensuring that the process remains impartial and upholds the university's standards. The correct approach involves a transparent and procedural response that prioritizes fairness and adherence to the university's stated admission policies. This approach acknowledges the discrepancy without making immediate assumptions or punitive judgments. It seeks clarification and allows for a structured review process, which is crucial for maintaining the integrity of the entrance examination. This aligns with the general principles of academic fairness and due process, ensuring that all applicants are evaluated under consistent and equitable conditions, as implicitly required by the regulatory framework governing university admissions in Japan, including those specific to Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music. The university's own regulations would mandate a fair and objective assessment process. An incorrect approach that involves immediate rejection based on a perceived, unconfirmed issue is ethically flawed because it bypasses due process and assumes guilt or misconduct without investigation. This violates the principle of fairness and could lead to the unjust exclusion of a deserving candidate. Such an action would likely contravene the university's internal regulations regarding applicant evaluation and appeals. Another incorrect approach, which is to ignore the discrepancy and proceed with the application as if no issue exists, is also professionally unacceptable. This demonstrates a lack of diligence and a failure to uphold the quality control measures that are in place to ensure the integrity of the admissions process. It could lead to the admission of an unqualified candidate or, conversely, create an unfair advantage if the discrepancy was indeed a significant factor. This approach neglects the responsibility to maintain accurate and complete application records, which is a fundamental aspect of administrative and academic governance. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a systematic approach. First, identify the discrepancy and its potential implications. Second, consult the relevant university policies and guidelines for handling such issues. Third, seek clarification or further information through appropriate channels, ensuring confidentiality and fairness. And fourth, make a decision based on established procedures and evidence, documenting all steps taken. This ensures that decisions are objective, defensible, and in line with the university's commitment to academic integrity and equitable admissions. Question 9. System analysis indicates that an applicant for the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam has been diligently practicing their chosen art form for several years. While their skills have significantly improved, they are concerned that their current portfolio may not fully showcase the level of technical mastery expected by the university's rigorous admission standards. They are considering including a few pieces from a period when they receive significant guidance from a mentor, subtly implying a higher degree of independent development than was actually the case, or alternatively, focusing their application on their most recent, albeit less technically polished, works that represent their current artistic direction and potential for growth. What is the most ethically sound and professionally responsible approach for this applicant to take when preparing their application materials? Option A. Focus their application on their most recent works, acknowledging their current artistic direction and potential for growth, even if they are less technically polished than earlier pieces. Option B. Subtly imply a higher degree of independent development in their portfolio by presenting mentor-guided works without full disclosure of the extent of external input. Option C. Seek to obtain new works from their mentor to include in their portfolio, presenting them as their own to meet the perceived technical standards. Option D. Exaggerate the technical proficiency demonstrated in their portfolio by selectively presenting only the most technically advanced pieces, regardless of their recency or representation of their current artistic voice. The correct answer is B. Subtly imply a higher degree of independent development in their portfolio by presenting mentor-guided works without full disclosure of the extent of external input. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between artistic integrity, the university's reputation, and the ethical obligation to represent one's work truthfully. The applicant is faced with a situation where their current skill level, while improving, may not yet fully align with the high standards expected by the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music. The pressure to gain admission can lead to a temptation to misrepresent or exaggerate one's abilities, which is ethically unsound and can have long-term professional repercussions. Careful judgment is required to navigate this situation in a way that upholds personal integrity and respects the university's admission process. The correct approach involves honest self-assessment and transparent communication. This means acknowledging the current state of their artistic development and focusing on demonstrating potential and a strong work ethic rather than fabricating achievements. The ethical justification lies in the principle of honesty and integrity, which are foundational to any academic or professional pursuit. Specifically, within the context of university admissions, misrepresentation can be seen as a violation of the trust placed in applicants and the integrity of the selection process. The Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music, like any reputable institution, expects applicants to present their genuine capabilities and aspirations. Demonstrating a commitment to learning and growth, even if it means admitting current limitations, is a more ethically sound and ultimately more respected path. An incorrect approach would be to embellish the portfolio with works that are not entirely their own, or to misrepresent the extent of their involvement in collaborative projects. This constitutes academic dishonesty and a breach of trust. Such actions undermine the fairness of the admission process, and if discovered, would lead to immediate disqualification and potential damage to the applicant's future academic and professional standing. Another incorrect approach would be to focus solely on past achievements that might be outdated or no longer representative of their current artistic direction, without acknowledging their ongoing development. While past success is relevant, the admissions committee is interested in the applicant's current abilities and future potential. Failing to provide a current and accurate reflection of their artistic practice is misleading. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of ethical principles, particularly honesty and integrity. Applicants should engage in honest self-reflection regarding their strengths and weaknesses. They should then communicate their artistic journey, including their progress and areas for continued development, in a transparent manner. This involves presenting their portfolio accurately, providing context for their work, and being prepared to discuss their artistic process and aspirations truthfully during interviews or any other assessment stages. Prioritizing authenticity over perceived perfection is crucial for building a sustainable and reputable career in the arts. Question 10. Strategic planning requires the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music to consider the integration of emerging digital art technologies, which approach best balances innovation with responsible resource management and adherence to educational standards. Option A. Immediately invest in the most advanced digital art equipment based on faculty recommendations to ensure the university remains competitive, without a detailed plan for integration or training. Option B. Acquire new digital art software and hardware, assuming faculty will independently learn to use them and integrate them into their existing courses as they see fit. Option C. Postpone any decisions regarding digital art technologies until a clearer understanding of their long-term impact on traditional art forms emerges, prioritizing existing curriculum stability. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive needs assessment and feasibility study involving all stakeholders, reviewing existing university regulations and prefectural guidelines before allocating resources for technology adoption and curriculum development. The correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive needs assessment and feasibility study involving all stakeholders, reviewing existing university regulations and prefectural guidelines before allocating resources for technology adoption and curriculum development. Explanation. This scenario presents a challenge for the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music in its strategic planning process, specifically concerning the integration of new digital art technologies. The university must balance the desire to remain at the forefront of artistic innovation with the practicalities of resource allocation, faculty development, and curriculum adaptation, all within the established regulatory framework for public educational institutions in Aichi Prefecture. The core challenge lies in ensuring that strategic decisions are not only forward-thinking, but also compliant with university statutes, prefectural educational guidelines, and ethical considerations regarding student learning and faculty support. The correct approach involves a comprehensive needs assessment and feasibility study that considers all relevant stakeholders, including students, faculty, administrative staff, and the wider artistic community. This approach prioritizes a data-driven and collaborative decision-making process. It aligns with the principles of sound governance and responsible resource management expected of a public university. Specifically, it would involve consulting the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music's own internal regulations regarding curriculum development and technology adoption, as well as any relevant prefectural guidelines on educational innovation and budget allocation. This ensures that any new initiatives are sustainable, well-integrated, and serve the university's mission effectively, while adhering to the spirit of public accountability. An incorrect approach would be to immediately commit significant resources to acquiring the latest digital art technology based solely on faculty enthusiasm or a perceived trend. This fails to account for the university's financial constraints, the need for faculty training, and the potential for the technology to become obsolete quickly. Such an approach risks misallocation of funds and could lead to a curriculum that is not adequately supported, potentially disadvantaging students. It would likely violate principles of prudent financial management and strategic foresight mandated by university and prefectural oversight bodies. Another incorrect approach would be to defer the decision indefinitely due to a fear of change or a lack of understanding of digital art's evolving role. This passive stance fails to recognize the university's responsibility to provide a relevant and contemporary education. It could lead to the university falling behind its peers and failing to equip students with the skills necessary for success in the modern art world. This inaction could be seen as a failure to uphold the university's educational mandate and to adapt to the changing landscape of fine arts and music. A third incorrect approach would be to implement new digital art technologies without adequate faculty training or curriculum revision. This would create a disconnect between the available tools and the pedagogical capacity to utilize them effectively. Students might be exposed to advanced technology without the necessary guidance or context, hindering their learning and artistic development. This approach demonstrates a lack of comprehensive planning and could lead to wasted resources and a suboptimal educational experience, potentially contravening guidelines on effective teaching and learning. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making process that begins with clearly defining the strategic objectives. This is followed by thorough research and analysis, including stakeholder consultation, assessment of current resources, and evaluation of potential impacts. A feasibility study, risk assessment, and the development of a phased implementation plan are crucial. Finally, continuous evaluation and adaptation are necessary to ensure the strategy remains effective and aligned with the university's mission and regulatory environment. Question 11. Stakeholder feedback indicates that while your submitted portfolio demonstrates technical proficiency, some reviewers felt it lacked a distinct personal narrative or emotional resonance that aligns with the university's emphasis on expressive artistry. How would you best address this feedback in your supplementary statement for the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam? Option A. Propose to revise your portfolio to incorporate more emotionally charged subject matter, even if it deviates from your current artistic interests, to meet perceived reviewer preferences. Option B. Elaborate on the specific artistic influences and conceptual underpinnings of your portfolio pieces, explaining how these elements contribute to a unique expressive voice, and how you intend to further develop this voice within the university's curriculum. Option C. Focus your supplementary statement on highlighting your technical skills and academic achievements, suggesting that these are more objective measures of your suitability for the program. Option D. State that artistic expression is subjective and that your portfolio reflects your intended artistic vision, which may differ from the reviewer's expectations. The correct answer is B. Elaborate on the specific artistic influences and conceptual underpinnings of your portfolio pieces, explaining how these elements contribute to a unique expressive voice and how you intend to further develop this voice within the university's curriculum. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge for an applicant to the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam due to the inherent subjectivity in evaluating artistic merit and the need to balance diverse stakeholder expectations. The university's entrance exam regulations, while not explicitly detailed here, are understood to prioritize a fair and objective assessment of an applicant's potential and existing skills within the context of fine arts and music. The challenge lies in interpreting and responding to feedback that might be influenced by personal biases or a misunderstanding of the exam's core objectives. The correct approach involves a nuanced understanding of the exam's purpose and a commitment to demonstrating how the applicant's work aligns with the university's established criteria for artistic excellence and academic potential. This approach prioritizes self-reflection and a strategic presentation of one's portfolio and artistic statement, directly addressing the feedback while framing it within the applicant's unique artistic vision and development. This aligns with the implicit regulatory framework of an entrance exam, which seeks to identify candidates who can contribute to and benefit from the specialized environment of a fine arts and music institution, and who can articulate their artistic journey and aspirations coherently. An incorrect approach would be to dismiss the feedback outright, as this demonstrates a lack of receptiveness to constructive criticism and an inability to engage with external perspectives, which are crucial for artistic growth. This failure to acknowledge and consider feedback, even if perceived as subjective, can be seen as a disregard for the evaluative process inherent in any academic selection. Another incorrect approach would be to drastically alter one's artistic style or portfolio solely to appease the feedback without genuine artistic conviction. This indicates a lack of personal artistic integrity and an overemphasis on external validation rather than intrinsic artistic development, which is contrary to the spirit of fostering original talent. Finally, an approach that focuses on defensive justifications without demonstrating an understanding of the feedback's underlying concerns would also be professionally unsound, suggesting an inability to communicate effectively about one's work and its reception. Professionals in this context should employ a decision-making framework that begins with active listening and objective analysis of feedback. They should then engage in critical self-assessment, considering how the feedback aligns with their artistic goals and the known requirements of the institution. The next step involves strategic communication, where feedback is acknowledged and addressed thoughtfully, demonstrating self-awareness and a clear artistic direction. This process emphasizes a balance between maintaining artistic integrity and showing a capacity for growth and adaptation, crucial for success in a competitive and specialized academic environment. Question 12. Governance review demonstrates a potential for increased external pressure on the admissions committee to consider factors beyond artistic merit and academic qualifications, particularly concerning applicants with strong connections to potential donors or those perceived to have significant future earning potential in commercially viable art sectors. How should the admissions committee navigate this situation to uphold the integrity of the Aichi Prefectural University Fine Arts and Music's entrance examination process? Option A. Prioritize applicants who have a demonstrated history of family donations to the university or who are recommended by influential alumni, as these individuals may bring valuable resources and connections to the institution. Option B. Strictly adhere to the published admission criteria and guidelines, ensuring all applicants are evaluated solely on their artistic portfolio, academic performance, and interview assessments, regardless of external connections or perceived future financial benefits. Option C. Develop a secondary, less stringent admission track for applicants who demonstrate strong potential for future financial contributions to the university, allowing for a more flexible interpretation of artistic and academic requirements. Option D. Focus recruitment efforts on commercially viable art disciplines, subtly adjusting evaluation metrics to favor applicants with skills that align with market demands, even if it means a slight compromise on traditional artistic innovation. The correct answer is B. Strictly adhere to the published admission criteria and guidelines, ensuring all applicants are evaluated solely on their artistic portfolio, academic performance, and interview assessments, regardless of external connections or perceived future financial benefits. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between the university's need to attract talented students and the ethical imperative to maintain academic integrity and fair admission processes. The pressure to meet enrollment targets can inadvertently lead to compromised decision-making if not managed with strict adherence to established guidelines. Careful judgment is required to balance institutional goals with the principles of fairness and transparency. The correct approach involves a thorough and objective evaluation of all applicants based on the established admission criteria, without undue influence from external factors or personal biases. This aligns with the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music's commitment to merit-based admissions and upholding the integrity of its selection process. Adherence to the university's official admission regulations and guidelines ensures that all candidates are assessed equitably, fostering trust in the institution's academic standards. An incorrect approach that prioritizes the recruitment of students with perceived future financial contributions over their artistic merit would be a significant ethical failure. This deviates from the core purpose of an art and music university, which is to cultivate artistic talent, and undermines the principle of equal opportunity for all applicants. Such a practice could lead to accusations of favoritism and discrimination, damaging the university's reputation and potentially violating its own admission policies. Another incorrect approach that involves creating special, less rigorous admission pathways for students from affluent backgrounds, even if not explicitly stated as such, would also be ethically problematic. This creates an uneven playing field and suggests that wealth, rather than artistic aptitude, is a determining factor in admission. This violates the spirit of fair competition and could lead to the admission of less qualified candidates, ultimately impacting the quality of the student body and the university's academic standing. A professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a clear understanding of the university's admission policies and ethical codes. When faced with pressure or competing interests, professionals must prioritize adherence to these established frameworks. This includes seeking clarification from superiors or relevant committees if ambiguities arise, and ensuring that all decisions are documented and justifiable based on objective criteria. The focus should always remain on selecting candidates who best meet the university's academic and artistic standards, ensuring fairness and transparency throughout the admissions process. Question 13. The monitoring system demonstrates a consistent pattern of lower scores being assigned to portfolios submitted by applicants from specific geographical regions within Aichi Prefecture, even when the artistic quality appears comparable to portfolios from other regions. This suggests a potential systemic bias in the initial evaluation phase. Which of the following actions is the most appropriate response to uphold the integrity of the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance examination? Option A. Conduct a superficial review of a small sample of portfolios from the affected regions and make minor, ad hoc adjustments to scores to address the discrepancy. Option B. Disregard the monitoring system's findings as potentially erroneous and proceed with the current evaluation results to avoid any delays in the admissions timeline. Option C. Inform the applicants from the affected regions that their submissions may have been subject to bias and allow them to resubmit their portfolios, potentially delaying the entire admissions process. Option D. Immediately initiate a comprehensive review of the evaluation criteria and the training of the initial evaluators, and if bias is confirmed, implement a standardized recalibration process for all affected portfolios before the final selection. The correct answer is D. Immediately initiate a comprehensive review of the evaluation criteria and the training of the initial evaluators, and if bias is confirmed, implement a standardized recalibration process for all affected portfolios before the final selection. Explanation. The scenario presents a challenge in maintaining the integrity of the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music's entrance examination process, specifically concerning the fair and unbiased evaluation of artistic portfolios. The monitoring system's demonstration of a potential bias requires immediate and careful judgment to uphold the university's commitment to meritocracy and equal opportunity for all applicants. The professional challenge lies in identifying and rectifying the bias without compromising the validity of the entire examination or unfairly disadvantaging any applicant. The correct approach involves a thorough, objective review of the monitoring system's findings, followed by a transparent and documented process of recalibration or adjustment to eliminate the identified bias. This aligns with the university's overarching regulatory framework, which implicitly mandates fairness, impartiality, and adherence to established evaluation criteria in all academic admissions processes. The ethical imperative is to ensure that every applicant is assessed solely on their artistic merit and potential, free from any systemic prejudice. This approach prioritizes the integrity of the examination and the trust placed in the university's admissions procedures. An incorrect approach that involves ignoring the monitoring system's findings or dismissing them without proper investigation would be a direct violation of the university's commitment to a fair and transparent admissions process. This failure to act on evidence of bias undermines the principle of equal opportunity and could lead to legal challenges or reputational damage. Another incorrect approach, such as making arbitrary adjustments to scores without a clear, documented rationale, would also be professionally unacceptable. This lacks objectivity and could be perceived as manipulation, further eroding trust in the examination system. A third incorrect approach, which might involve prematurely disqualifying applicants based on the initial bias data without a corrective measure, would be ethically unsound and contrary to the principles of fair assessment. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, acknowledging and documenting the anomaly identified by the monitoring system. Second, initiating an objective investigation to understand the root cause of the bias. Third, developing and implementing a corrective action plan that is transparent and justifiable. Fourth, reevaluating the affected components of the examination process to ensure the bias has been eliminated. Finally, communicating the findings and actions taken to relevant stakeholders, if appropriate, to maintain transparency and accountability. Question 14. The performance metrics show a slight discrepancy in the initial screening scores for a group of promising applicants to the Fine Arts program, with some exhibiting exceptional portfolio work but lower scores in a standardized theoretical assessment. Considering the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music's entrance examination guidelines, which approach best balances the assessment of artistic potential with regulatory compliance. Option A. Exclude these applicants from further consideration, as their scores do not meet the minimum threshold for the theoretical assessment, adhering strictly to the numerical cutoff. Option B. Introduce a new, informal interview component specifically for these applicants to gauge their artistic passion and understanding, without formally amending the published examination criteria. Option C. Prioritize applicants with higher theoretical assessment scores, assuming this metric is the most objective indicator of future academic success in the arts. Option D. Conduct a secondary review of the portfolios for these applicants, focusing on the innovative aspects and technical skill demonstrated, and consider this alongside their theoretical assessment scores during the final decision-making process. Correct answer is D. Conduct a secondary review of the portfolios for these applicants, focusing on the innovative aspects and technical skill demonstrated, and consider this alongside their theoretical assessment scores during the final decision-making process. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's commitment to fostering artistic talent with the need to ensure a fair and transparent admissions process. The admissions committee must consider a wide range of applicant qualities, including artistic potential, academic achievement, and personal suitability, while adhering strictly to the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music's established entrance examination regulations. The risk lies in either overlooking exceptional talent due to rigid adherence to a single metric, or compromising the integrity of the selection process by deviating from established guidelines. The correct approach involves a holistic review that prioritizes the comprehensive assessment of each applicant's potential as outlined in the university's entrance examination guidelines. This approach acknowledges that artistic talent is multifaceted and cannot always be captured by a single performance metric. By considering a combination of portfolio review, interview, and potentially a practical assessment, the committee aligns with the spirit of the regulations, which aim to identify students who will thrive and contribute to the university's artistic community. This method ensures that the evaluation is thorough, fair, and respects the diverse ways artistic aptitude can manifest, thereby upholding the university's commitment to excellence and equity in admissions. An approach that solely relies on the performance metrics, disregarding other qualitative aspects of the applicant's submission, fails to adhere to the comprehensive evaluation framework implicitly required by a university dedicated to fine arts and music. Such a narrow focus risks overlooking candidates with exceptional creative potential who may not excel in a single, quantifiable area. This would be a regulatory failure, as it misinterprets the intent of the entrance examination, which is to identify well-rounded individuals capable of artistic growth. An approach that introduces new, unannounced evaluation criteria during the review process, without prior notification or amendment to the official examination guidelines, constitutes a significant regulatory and ethical breach. This undermines the transparency and fairness of the admissions process. Applicants are evaluated based on a known set of criteria. Introducing ad hoc measures creates an uneven playing field and violates the principle of equal opportunity. This is a failure to follow established university regulations and a breach of ethical conduct in admissions. An approach that prioritizes applicants based on external affiliations or recommendations, rather than their demonstrated merit and potential as assessed through the official examination process, is also a regulatory and ethical failure. The entrance examination is designed to be an objective measure of an applicant's suitability. Allowing external factors to unduly influence the decision-making process compromises the integrity of the assessment and is contrary to the principles of merit-based selection enshrined in university admissions. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should begin with a thorough understanding of the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music's entrance examination regulations. This involves identifying the core objectives of the examination and the specific criteria for assessment. When faced with ambiguous or incomplete performance metrics, the committee should consult the official guidelines for clarification or seek guidance from the relevant university authorities responsible for admissions. The decision-making process should be collaborative, ensuring that all committee members are aligned on the interpretation and application of the regulations. Any deviation from established procedures must be justified by the regulations themselves or formally approved through the appropriate university channels. The ultimate goal is to make a fair, transparent, and well-reasoned decision that upholds the integrity of the university and identifies the most promising candidates for its programs. Question 15. Cost-benefit analysis shows that developing a robust English translation service for all submitted portfolios would be prohibitively expensive and time-consuming for the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam. However, a highly promising international applicant has submitted their portfolio in English, and the admissions committee believes their artistic merit is exceptional. Considering only the regulatory framework, laws, and guidelines for the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam, what is the most appropriate course of action for the admissions committee? Option A. The admissions committee should reject the application outright, citing the portfolio's submission in a non-compliant language, without further investigation into potential accommodations. Option B. The admissions committee should create an informal, one-time exception to accept the English portfolio, documenting the decision internally, but not amending the official examination guidelines. Option C. The admissions committee should consult the official examination regulations to determine if any provisions allow for the consideration of portfolios submitted in languages other than Japanese, or if there are established procedures for requesting official translations or seeking waivers. Option D. The admissions committee should unilaterally decide to accept the English portfolio, believing the applicant's talent outweighs the procedural irregularity. The correct answer is C. The admissions committee should consult the official examination regulations to determine if any provisions allow for the consideration of portfolios submitted in languages other than Japanese, or if there are established procedures for requesting official translations or seeking waivers. Explanation. The scenario presents a challenge for the university's admissions committee in balancing the desire to attract talented international students with the need to adhere strictly to the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam regulations. The core of the challenge lies in interpreting and applying the existing examination framework to a novel situation, ensuring fairness, transparency, and compliance without creating undue precedent or compromising the integrity of the selection process. Careful judgment is required to avoid arbitrary decisions that could lead to appeals or damage the university's reputation. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the existing entrance examination regulations to determine if any provisions, however implicit, could accommodate the consideration of a portfolio submitted in a language other than Japanese. This would likely involve consulting the official examination guidelines and potentially seeking clarification from the relevant examination board or administrative body within the university. The justification for this approach is rooted in the principle of regulatory adherence. The Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam regulations are the sole governing framework. Any deviation or interpretation must be demonstrably supported by the existing text or official interpretations thereof. This ensures that all applicants are assessed under the same, clearly defined criteria, upholding fairness and preventing any perception of bias or preferential treatment. An incorrect approach would be to unilaterally decide to accept the portfolio in English without explicit authorization from the examination regulations. This bypasses the established regulatory framework and introduces an element of subjectivity and potential unfairness. The regulatory failure here is a direct violation of the principle of operating strictly within the defined examination parameters. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the application outright without exploring any potential avenues for accommodation within the existing rules. This might be perceived as a lack of flexibility or an unwillingness to consider diverse talent, potentially leading to a missed opportunity for the university and a negative experience for the applicant, though the primary failure is still the failure to exhaust all regulatory compliant options. A third incorrect approach would be to create a new, ad hoc rule for this specific applicant without proper consultation or amendment to the official examination guidelines. This undermines the authority of the established regulations and sets a dangerous precedent for future admissions, creating inconsistency and potential for future disputes. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should begin with a comprehensive understanding of the governing regulations. If a situation appears to fall outside the explicit scope of the regulation, the next step is to investigate if any existing clauses can be reasonably interpreted to address it. If ambiguity exists, seeking official clarification from the relevant authorities is paramount. Only after exhausting all avenues for compliant interpretation or clarification should any consideration of proposing amendments or new procedures be entertained, and this must be done through the proper institutional channels, not unilaterally. Question 16. Compliance review shows that a prospective applicant to the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam has participated in various artistic activities, including informal online art challenges, assisting a local artist with studio organization, and completing a series of personal sketchbooks. The applicant is unsure how to best present these experiences as prior artistic achievement in their application, as they lack formal exhibition history or extensive coursework, which approach best aligns with the spirit and requirements of the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exams admission guidelines for demonstrating prior artistic achievement. Option A. State that formal prior artistic achievement is not relevant to their application, as they possess exceptional innate talent that will be evident in their portfolio, and therefore, these other activities are not worth detailing. Option B. Emphasize the personal growth and learning derived from each activity, explaining how the online challenges fostered discipline, the studio assistants provided practical insight into an artist's workflow, and the sketchbooks showcase consistent creative exploration and skill development, directly linking these to the university's stated interest in dedicated and developing artists. Option C. List all activities without elaboration, assuming the admissions committee will recognize their value and focus the majority of the application on a single, albeit less developed, portfolio piece. Option D. Inflate the description of assisting the local artist to imply a more significant role, such as co-curating a small exhibition, and present the online challenges as if they were competitive, juried events. The correct answer is B. Emphasize the personal growth and learning derived from each activity, explaining how the online challenges fostered discipline, the studio assistants provided practical insight into an artist's workflow, and the sketchbooks showcase consistent creative exploration and skill development, directly linking these to the university's stated interest in dedicated and developing artists. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge for an applicant to the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam by requiring them to interpret and apply the university's specific admission guidelines in a nuanced situation. The difficulty lies in discerning the intent behind the guidelines, particularly regarding the definition of prior artistic achievement, and how it relates to both formal and informal learning experiences. Applicants must demonstrate an understanding of how their personal artistic journey aligns with the university's stated values and expectations for prospective students, moving beyond a simple checklist of accomplishments. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a comprehensive and honest self-assessment of one's artistic development, directly referencing the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exams' stated criteria for prior artistic achievement. This means carefully reviewing the exam's guidelines to understand what constitutes relevant experience, whether it be formal training, self-directed projects, or community engagement. The applicant should then articulate how their unique experiences, even if unconventional, demonstrate the skills, passion, and potential that the university seeks. This approach is correct because it directly addresses the exam's requirements with integrity and a clear understanding of the university's admission philosophy, showcasing a thoughtful and well-supported application. Incorrect approach is analysis, an approach that focuses solely on listing any and all artistic activities without considering their relevance to the university's specific criteria for prior artistic achievement, is incorrect. This fails to demonstrate an understanding of the exam's intent and may present a superficial or unfocused picture of the applicant's qualifications. Another incorrect approach would be to exaggerate or misrepresent the significance of minor artistic involvements to inflate the perceived level of prior achievement. This violates ethical principles of honesty and integrity, which are fundamental to academic and artistic pursuits. Such misrepresentation undermines the credibility of the entire application. Finally, an approach that dismisses the importance of prior artistic achievement altogether, assuming that raw talent alone will suffice, is also incorrect. The entrance exam guidelines are designed to assess a holistic profile of the applicant, and ignoring a specified criterion demonstrates a lack of diligence and respect for the examination process. Professional reasoning. Professionals in admissions review or applicant guidance would advise a systematic approach. First, thoroughly understand the specific requirements and underlying philosophy of the institution. Second, conduct an honest self-evaluation against these criteria. Third, present evidence that directly supports claims of meeting these criteria, using clear and truthful language. Finally, be prepared to articulate the connection between past experiences and future potential within the context of the institution's program. This process ensures fairness, transparency, and the selection of candidates who are a good fit for the program. Question 17. Upon reviewing the submitted portfolio for the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance examination, the admissions committee discovers striking similarities between a key piece of the applicant's artwork and a well-known contemporary artist's work, raising concerns about potential plagiarism. What is the most ethically sound and procedurally correct course of action for the admissions committee? Option A. Initiate a formal investigation into the alleged plagiarism, gathering evidence and providing the applicant with an opportunity to explain the similarities before making a final decision. Option B. Immediately disqualify the applicant from consideration due to the strong suspicion of plagiarism. Option C. Contact the contemporary artist directly to confirm whether their work was copied without their permission. Option D. Overlook the similarities, assuming they are coincidental, to avoid potential conflict and ensure a diverse applicant pool. The correct answer is B. Immediately disqualify the applicant from consideration due to the strong suspicion of plagiarism. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the ethical obligation to maintain academic integrity and uphold the reputation of the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music. The applicant's potential plagiarism, if unaddressed, could lead to unfair admission, devaluing the achievements of honest applicants and undermining the university's standards. Careful judgment is required to balance the need for thorough investigation with the applicant's right to a fair process. The correct approach involves a thorough, objective investigation into the alleged plagiarism, adhering strictly to the university's established academic integrity policies and procedures. This means gathering evidence, providing the applicant with an opportunity to respond, and making a decision based on the findings and the university's regulations. This upholds the ethical principles of fairness, honesty, and accountability, ensuring that admission decisions are based on genuine merit and that the university's academic standards are protected. An incorrect approach would be to immediately dismiss the applicant based on suspicion alone, without due process. This violates the principle of fairness and the applicant's right to be heard. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the allegation entirely, which would be a dereliction of duty and a failure to uphold academic integrity, potentially allowing a plagiarized work to influence an admission decision. Furthermore, confronting the applicant in an accusatory manner without a formal investigation process would be unprofessional and could prejudice the outcome. Professionals in admissions should employ a structured decision-making process that prioritizes evidence-based assessment and adherence to established policies. This involves 1. Recognizing the ethical concern, 2. Initiating a formal, objective investigation according to university guidelines, 3. Ensuring all parties have a fair opportunity to present their case, 4. Making a decision based solely on the evidence and relevant regulations, 5. Documenting the entire process meticulously. Question 18. Process analysis reveals that an applicant for the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam has created several compelling pieces of artwork as part of a student collective that collaborated on a public mural project. The applicant wishes to include these pieces in their entrance portfolio, but is concerned about how to represent their individual contribution accurately, given the collaborative nature of the work. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the principles of academic integrity and the likely expectations of the university's entrance examination? Option A. Submitting the collaborative mural pieces and providing a detailed written statement outlining the applicant's specific role, responsibilities, and artistic contributions within the collective project. Option B. Submitting the collaborative mural pieces without any additional explanation, assuming the university will recognize the applicant's involvement. Option C. Omitting the collaborative mural pieces from the portfolio entirely to avoid any potential issues related to shared authorship. Option D. Submitting the collaborative mural pieces and claiming sole authorship, highlighting their personal artistic vision in the accompanying statement. The correct answer is A. Submitting the collaborative mural pieces and providing a detailed written statement outlining the applicant's specific role, responsibilities, and artistic contributions within the collective project. Explanation. The scenario presents a challenge for an applicant to the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam regarding the ethical and regulatory considerations of submitting a portfolio that includes work created collaboratively. The core professional challenge lies in accurately representing one's individual contribution and adhering to the university's stated requirements for original work, while also acknowledging collaborative efforts appropriately. Misrepresenting the nature of the work can lead to accusations of academic dishonesty, which carries severe consequences within the examination framework. Careful judgment is required to balance the desire to showcase diverse artistic experiences with the imperative of transparency and integrity. The correct approach involves clearly delineating the applicant's specific contributions to any collaborative pieces within the portfolio. This demonstrates an understanding of academic honesty and respect for the examination's emphasis on individual merit. By providing a detailed explanation of their role in collaborative projects, the applicant adheres to the implicit regulatory expectation of presenting authentic, self-generated work or clearly contextualized contributions to shared projects. This aligns with the ethical principle of truthfulness in academic submissions. An incorrect approach of submitting collaborative work without any clarification of individual roles fails to meet the university's likely expectation of assessing individual artistic skill and vision. This omission can be interpreted as an attempt to gain an unfair advantage by presenting the collective output as solely the applicant's own, thereby violating principles of academic integrity. Another incorrect approach, that of omitting collaborative works entirely, might be seen as a missed opportunity to showcase a broader range of artistic engagement and problem-solving skills, but it is less ethically problematic than misrepresentation. However, it does not fully address the prompt's nuance of how to present such work. A third incorrect approach, claiming sole authorship of collaborative work, is a direct violation of academic honesty and constitutes misrepresentation, leading to disqualification and reputational damage. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes transparency and adherence to stated or implied guidelines. This involves a thorough review of the examination's regulations and guidelines, seeking clarification if any aspect is ambiguous. When preparing submissions, a critical self-assessment of the work's origin and nature is essential. If collaboration is involved, the professional standard dictates clear and honest disclosure of individual contributions, ensuring that the presented work accurately reflects the applicant's capabilities and efforts. Question 19. The control framework reveals that an applicant for the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam has submitted a portfolio of digital art that is accessible only through a custom-built augmented reality application, deviating from the specified format of physical prints or standard digital files. Which of the following represents the most appropriate course of action for the admissions committee? Option A. Accept the submission without further review, assuming the innovative format indicates superior artistic merit, and proceed with its evaluation alongside traditional submissions. Option B. Request the applicant to reformat their digital art into a series of high-resolution JPEG files that can be printed, disregarding the interactive and augmented reality elements of their original submission. Option C. Reject the submission outright due to its noncompliance with the specified format, informing the applicant that future submissions must strictly adhere to the guidelines. Option D. Review the augmented reality submission by engaging with the applicant to understand the artistic intent and technical execution, and consult with the admissions committee and relevant faculty to determine if the submission can be evaluated within the spirit of the exam regulations, potentially requiring a demonstration or explanation of the work. The correct answer is D. Review the augmented reality submission by engaging with the applicant to understand the artistic intent and technical execution, and consult with the admissions committee and relevant faculty to determine if the submission can be evaluated within the spirit of the exam regulations, potentially requiring a demonstration or explanation of the work. Explanation. The control framework reveals a potential conflict between the university's established admissions process and a new, innovative artistic submission method proposed by an applicant. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing adherence to existing regulations and guidelines with the university's mission to foster artistic talent and innovation. A rigid application of current rules could stifle creativity and exclude promising candidates, while an overly lenient approach might compromise the integrity and fairness of the admissions process. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any decision is both compliant and supportive of the university's educational objectives. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the applicant's submission against the spirit and intent of the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music entrance exam regulations, seeking clarification from the admissions committee or relevant academic departments regarding the interpretation of submission guidelines for unconventional formats. This approach prioritizes understanding the existing framework while allowing for reasoned interpretation and potential adaptation in exceptional circumstances, aligning with the university's commitment to artistic excellence. It respects the established procedures by engaging the appropriate decision-making bodies for guidance and potential exceptions, ensuring fairness and consistency. An incorrect approach would be to immediately reject the submission solely because it deviates from the standard format without further investigation or consultation. This fails to acknowledge the potential for artistic innovation and could lead to the exclusion of a talented individual, contradicting the university's core mission. Another incorrect approach would be to unilaterally accept the submission without consulting the admissions committee or seeking clarification on how it aligns with the exam's objectives. This bypasses established governance and could set a precedent that undermines the fairness and transparency of the admissions process for future applicants. A third incorrect approach would be to attempt to force the unconventional submission into a pre-existing category without considering its unique artistic merit, thereby devaluing the applicant's creative effort and potentially misrepresenting their artistic capabilities. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the governing regulations and guidelines. When faced with an anomaly, the next step is to assess the nature and extent of the deviation. This should be followed by seeking clarification from the relevant authorities or committees responsible for interpreting and enforcing these regulations. If necessary, a formal process for considering exceptions or adaptations should be initiated, ensuring that any decision is well documented, justifiable, and aligned with the overarching goals of the institution. Question 20. Examination of the data shows that an applicant for the Fine Arts program at Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music has submitted a portfolio that demonstrates exceptional conceptual originality and a unique artistic voice, but exhibits some technical deficiencies in specific areas as outlined in the university's general assessment rubric for the discipline. The admissions committee is aware of the applicant's strong potential for future artistic development and their promising connections within the contemporary art scene. Considering the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music's entrance examination regulations, which approach should the admissions committee prioritize? Option A. Conduct a thorough review of the portfolio, giving significant weight to the conceptual originality and unique artistic voice, while also objectively assessing the technical deficiencies against the university's established benchmarks for the discipline, and then deliberate on the overall artistic merit and potential for growth within the context of the program's curriculum. Option B. Overlook the technical deficiencies, focusing solely on the conceptual originality and unique artistic voice, as these are the most important indicators of artistic talent according to general art world trends. Option C. Seek external opinions from renowned art critics and curators to determine the applicant's true artistic value, and base the admission decision primarily on their endorsements, irrespective of the university's specific evaluation criteria. Option D. Admit the applicant based on their perceived potential for future fame and their valuable connections within the art world, as these factors are often indicative of future success and can benefit the university's reputation. The correct answer is A. Conduct a thorough review of the portfolio, giving significant weight to the conceptual originality and unique artistic voice, while also objectively assessing the technical deficiencies against the university's established benchmarks for the discipline, and then deliberate on the overall artistic merit and potential for growth within the context of the program's curriculum. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's stated commitment to artistic integrity and the practical pressures of recruitment and institutional reputation. The admissions committee must navigate the delicate balance of upholding rigorous artistic standards while ensuring a fair and transparent selection process that aligns with the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music's established guidelines. The core difficulty lies in interpreting subjective artistic merit within a structured evaluation framework, ensuring that decisions are defensible and free from undue influence or bias. The correct approach involves a thorough and objective review of all applicant portfolios against the established criteria outlined in the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music's entrance examination regulations. This means prioritizing the assessment of technical skill, conceptual originality, and alignment with the specific artistic discipline's requirements as defined by the university. The justification for this approach is rooted in the principle of regulatory compliance and academic integrity. The university's entrance examination framework serves as the governing document, and adherence to its stipulated evaluation metrics ensures fairness, consistency, and the selection of candidates who genuinely meet the institution's artistic and academic standards. This upholds the university's reputation for excellence and provides a clear, defensible basis for admissions decisions. An incorrect approach would be to prioritize an applicant's perceived potential for future fame or their connections to established artists over their current portfolio's merit. This fails to comply with the university's entrance examination regulations, which focus on evaluating the applicant's present artistic capabilities and readiness for study. Such a decision would be ethically unsound, as it introduces subjective bias and undermines the principle of equal opportunity for all applicants. Another incorrect approach would be to deviate from the established scoring rubric or qualitative assessment guidelines provided within the university's examination framework, perhaps due to time constraints or pressure to fill quotas. This constitutes a direct violation of regulatory compliance. The established guidelines are designed to ensure a standardized and equitable evaluation process. Ignoring or arbitrarily altering these guidelines introduces inconsistency and can lead to unfair outcomes, potentially admitting candidates who do not meet the required standards or rejecting those who do. A further incorrect approach would be to allow external opinions or endorsements from external art critics or professionals to heavily influence the admissions decision without independent verification against the university's criteria. While external perspectives can be valuable, the final decision must rest on the applicant's demonstrated performance as evaluated through the university's prescribed methods. Relying solely on external validation without cross-referencing with the university's specific requirements bypasses the established regulatory process and introduces an element of external influence that may not align with the university's educational objectives. A professional decision-making process for similar situations should begin with a comprehensive understanding of the Aichi Prefectural University of Fine Arts and Music's entrance examination regulations and any associated departmental guidelines. This includes familiarizing oneself with the specific criteria for evaluating artistic portfolios, the weighting of different assessment components, and the established procedures for deliberation. When faced with ambiguous cases or conflicting assessments, the professional should consult with other members of the admissions committee and refer back to the official documentation to ensure decisions are grounded in the established framework. Transparency and documentation of the decision-making process are crucial for accountability and to uphold the integrity of the admissions process.